Cool. So now we're going to start working on our homepage. And if we remember from our wireframes, and I guess, it's kind of been a while, so let me bring it back over and in. We're still missing kind of the onboarding, but we'll probably do that once we get our full auth pipeline done. But if we just remember what some of the things that we need to do within our homepage, so we need to create some form of sidebar. Now, all of these kind of dashboard pages all already have like the same sidebar. You can see like almost all the screens have it. So we'll create a shared sidebar that all of them will share at the dashboard level. And home will have some very specific components. Little homepage header. Sorry, couple buttons to do some immediate actions, a user button, which will allow for someone to click on it, sign in, sign out, all that good stuff. We're going to have a couple of summary cards here. So like a campaign performance card and then an audience card. We can kind of figure out how we're going to fill it in so that it kind of mirrors some of the functionality that you see here. We're not doing it exactly what's going on here. I think focusing on the current campaigns and then focusing on the contacts is within the scope of this tutorial. So great. Let's go into actually trying this. So when we do this, it's good to just kind of plan ahead, right? So we need some kind of home dashboard header bar. I'll just call it a header. And if we actually, one more thing, if we go back and see, we can kind of see that I also shared this home dashboard. So we're probably going to try to create a shared component for that too, but just be able to, because there are some minor differences between like these buttons and, the name of the buttons. Mostly it's going to be the same things are going to be the header and then the user button here. We're going to try to keep that the same across all of these pages, but also recognize that we're going to have, two buttons here, one button here. The buttons are going to do different things. There's not even a button here. So just because of that, we're going to take that into account, but try to make it as modular as possible so that we can reuse this component for all of our dashboard pages because they all have that shared functionality. So these two are shared. The cards, we'll see when we actually implement this. Like this one looks the same, but they're all within the performance dashboard. I don't see much of that being reused. Contacts and campaigns, maybe we can reuse this type of format here. This like data table settings seems to also have that for the team information. So we'll try to save that. You can see this little form here. Probably going to be the same thing that's going to be shared. So, just a rule of thumb that I like to have is that whenever you write code, if you ever have to write it more than one time, I think that's like a good attempt to abstract it. So just some kind of automatic best practice that you can try to instill into yourself. But, for some people, you may or may not care. I think the best software is the one that just works and produces the end result that you want. And for most founders and entrepreneurs, it's getting customers and getting revenue. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. Cool. So we're going to have our dashboard header, and then we're going to have some form of home campaign summary card is a way of putting it. And then the last one, we're just going to have another one, which will be the audience summary card. Like you can call them just summary. You can specify card. I personally like to, if I am using some type of component, like using the same naming convention, you can choose not to. Whatever makes the most descriptive sense for what you want to do. So cool. Let's see. So I think for the most part, all that we're going to do here is... Oh, actually, there's the dashboard sidebar. So we're going to need to create that sidebar there. Another thing that we are going to do is So within this layout already, we gave this flex, height of full, item center, justify center with a full for the whole thing. But just remember, and I guess I could pull out the design one more time, that layout is for this entire screen. Now we have the home page, and since we're going to have sidebar at the layout level that's shared across all things, the home page component really just controls this section here, right, just within here. So we need to do the same, kind of take up the whole, to have our home page take up the entirety of the space in this kind of, 2/3 of the screen, maybe a little bit more than 2/3, but the majority of the screen, for it to take that up. So inside of our home, we're going to add a class name here, flex, and all of this stuff is going to be in a column. So we're just going to do flex call, height of full, width of full. We're not going to do item center, justify center, just because these things, they're going to start from the top and work their way down. We're not going to need to center this stuff in the middle of this container here. So, all that we're going to do is just have it start from the top, work its way down, and anything that needs to be centered, we'll do it at each individual component level, not at the parent top level component. Great. So let's see here. So what we're going to do next is create a folder here, so a hidden route or a hidden folder that's not going to be included in our app router. Underscore components here, we're just going to add in home dash, if I can spell it right, dashboard header.tsx here. And we're going to do use client. So it's going to be a client component because we're going to use router here. And I believe that requires next / navigation. This requires it to be a component compliant client component. Sorry, tongue tie today. We're gonna add in a button. We're gonna need button. We are going to need something called skeleton. Actually, we don't need that yet, so we're gonna not include that for now. We're gonna do export const home dashboard header, and what we're gonna do is return. And just remember that we said that we were gonna reuse this component, so we're just gonna call it dashboard, and we can call it header here, a dashboard header. Could also call it a nav bar if you want. Depends on how you want to do it. So we're going to create a div here. We're gonna have flex, gap x of 2, items center, justify between, width of full. So what I'm doing now is just creating these internal contents for this portion here, and this user button is going to be shared. But basically this portion here, you're going to add it to this common dashboard header that we're going to create, which is already going to have a user button. And something I actually didn't draw here, but I think we're going to include, is a organization toggle. So, if you have one company that you're working for, you'll have that company appear here, but you can also toggle between different companies. And look, if your team actually gets big enough when you're using the CRM tool, you might want to, have sub-organizations, or, one organization just means one team of a company. You can switch between different teams when you're working through, CRM. So a marketing team could use this, a sales team could use this, or if you have a product line, like product number 1's marketing team, product number 2's marketing team, etc., etc. So it's just another way that we can help users segment themselves. So we'll add that in the future. For now, let's just finish this up. So we're gonna have the little home here. So we're gonna do on large screens, text XL, make it a little smaller, but on smaller screens, we're going to do text of 2XL, and we're just going to write home here. We're going to do a div, so we have those two buttons there, so we just want to make sure that they're aligned together in a row with a little space in between them. Gap X of 2, so flex row, gap X of 2. We have a button here on click, and we're going to do something. Well, yeah, I think that actually works there. So let's add in our router. Router is equal to use router there. Thank you, Copilot. So const router equals use router. Put that outside of your return there. And this is just a way for us to be able to redirect on the button click. So if we want to do like new campaign, whoops. If a user wants to create a new campaign, they can do that. They can go to campaign / I'll probably say new. So we'll create a dedicated page to create new campaigns. So we don't need to touch that for now, but later on, just remember, we're gonna have a separate new route here that controls that, and then we're gonna create another button that's going to do add contacts, and then we're gonna have a similar on click here, and then the router push contacts / we can do new or we can do add. Either one works. I'll just do add there. And just to make it different, I'm going to do this one to be a variant of outline. So a new campaign will be a primary button, so it'll be filled in, but adding contacts is going to be the secondary version of that. So we haven't created a dashboard header. And let's see here. I actually called this platform. I think I'm actually going to rename these just to fit the naming convention there. I think I actually like calling this more a platform. So platform header here. Call this platform header. I apologize for changing this halfway, but I think it's just a better naming convention because this isn't, we're talking about whole platform here, doing a bunch of different things, not just a dashboard displaying stuff. So I think it's more descriptive if we call it that way. So we're going to create an underscore components here at the platform level, so they can create the shared platform header file here. So platform -header.tsx. So let's just do export const platform header. It's going to have some children, and for now we're just going to just to get rid of the error, create a div here, apply the children. So nothing too crazy is happening here. We're going to need to create a type for our props, children of React node, right? And then we're going to take these props here and type our children inside of the props object. There we go. So then we can just remove the R, add in the R, provide this in here, and just do @ is it @ app / why is this not found? I think it's just @ there. It might just be another IntelliSense. I'll actually check it by just doing npm run build real quick, and I'll be right back with you once this is done running. Okay, there we go. So it's @ app / remember that we did the parentheses, I forgot this, parentheses platform / components platform header. So we want to use a component at the platform level that's going to be shared amongst all of our analytics, campaign, contacts, home routes, settings, etc. We need to be able to pull it from the right place. I think that this looks a little bit cleaner than just .. / blah 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 blah, because if we ever move things around, like this route is still valid if we move it within our app folder. It's still valid, this route. And I know that VS Code automatically moves it around, but just in case there's a glitch or something goes wrong, if you just do this, you can move it anywhere. This platform header, you can move it into features if needed, move it into components for whatever reason. It won't cause a problem. Well, actually, sorry. If you move platform header around, that's going to be a problem. But if you moved the thing that was using it, like this home platforms header, it still references the same route here. Cool. So let's see. Let's actually create our platform header then. Okay, so instead of using divs, just because this is a header, I'll just call it nav. You can call this a nav bar too, by the way, instead of a header, but I just think that, like, you're not going to be doing much like navigation. We're not doing like page by page by page within the top bar. Instead, we're doing it in the sidebar, so it's like, this isn't really the nav bar. It's more of a header for the page, right? But you could wrap it in nav. You could wrap it in div. Whatever is more descriptive. As I'm talking about it out loud, I think it actually is more descriptive to be a div because it's not actually a nav bar. So you can choose whatever you want. Both of them are ostensibly the same. So just personal preference there. I think that this makes a little bit more sense. So we're going to add a class name to this div, border bottom of 2, so border -b-2, flex, height, specify it to be 68 pixels. We're going to do items, center, padding on the inside of 4, shadow small, width of full. That's we're going to be providing the children. So if anybody wants to add anything to the header, they're welcome to do so. Add as much as you like. Don't add anything. That's totally fine. But to the right of it, and we're going to push it over ml-auto and pl-10. So ml-auto basically means, for any amount that this thing, however long the children's is, we're just going to push everything that's within this container to the right until it fits. And then we're providing a padding inside of that container of 10. So you'll see it in a little bit, but it's just a way of providing spacing between what the user provides and children, and then user being whoever's using this component. I'm not meaning like the person using the website. But it allows for a separation between whatever they're providing within children and whatever's on the right. So what are the things that we're going to add to the right? Well, we haven't implemented anything about organizations, so we'll just provide a to-do for that. But inside of another div, inside of this one, I'm going to do tried and true button group container of flex-row, gapx-2. We're actually going to do a to-do here, so comment, and just say to-do create org toggle. Great. And then we're going to provide a user button. So we need to actually add in a user button. And I think it makes sense if we put our user button within our auth components here, just because that's going to be one of the primary purposes of the user button, is to help someone sign out, but also allow for them to, access settings and that type of stuff. But, we're more worried about allowing for the user to have a way to sign out. So what we're going to do, it's going to be a client component. We're actually going to need something called avatar. So we're going to do npx shad cn at latest add avatar. We're going to need a drop down menu, and let me just check. Is it drop down dash menu or the other? Let me see. Shad cn. So let's see. Is it drop down dash menu? Yep, drop down dash menu. And we're going to add in our skeleton to use in the future. Once we actually are querying from the database, we'll use a skeleton. So just to go over while this thing is installing, what is an avatar? So again, it's just a little photo, right? And since we have our little image URL that's given to us from the OAuth provider, we're just going to be able to pull the same avatar picture. So it's just an image element with a fallback. So in case the user doesn't have a photo, it'll just show like the little typical profile a silhouette that you might see, like if you never put in a image. Your drop down menu, so if you hit open, right, it just creates a little menu like that. Weirdly, this one goes on the top. It just depends on like how the orientation of your screen is. Like if it doesn't fit on the bottom, it'll go top, and if there's space on the bottom, it'll appear on the bottom. I know drop down, it's like usually it means like going down, but you know, this is just a way to make it so that you know, you're more makes your website more reactive to where the user is on the scroll, right? And so, you know, there's multiple different types of drop-down menu stuff that you can add. You can create like a checkbox list. This activity bar here, it's kind of grayed out, means it's a disabled option. So, you know, for whatever reason you need to disable something within the drop-down, you can. And a radio group, those are just radio buttons, so being able to select something, and you can see it changes the selection option. So multiple ways to be able to do like changes in selection. So we're not going to really do selection within the drop-down menus just because for the user button, just because once you click on something, it should just redirect, right? It's more like this example here. So we're probably going to do the same thing here. We're actually also going to add in npx shadcn at latest add. Oh, I think we already have a separator. Let me check real quick. I believe, yep, we already have a separator. Sorry, I saw the separator and wanted to make sure that we had it. Cool. And then the last one to show for is the skeleton. Which is this little kind of flashing grayed out area, and it's like they say here, a placeholder while content is loading. So when we pull something from the server, depends on internet speeds to tell how long it's going to take for you to retrieve data. And just like being able to pull an image or pull information about a user's organizations and pull information from the database, it takes time. So while it's taking time, you don't want to just show a user a blank page because they might misinterpret something as going wrong. This is a way of indicating that, hey, there's something that's loading. So we're going to be able to add in skeletons. I know that we haven't done anything with querying, which requires Hano here and tan stack querying. So we haven't done that yet. So we're not going to add in skeletons until we are doing API pulls, retrievals of data. But we'll just install it now just to have it for later. So you can see different ways of doing skeletons. So great. Let's jump back into over here. So yeah, let's finish up this user button and then navigate over to home so that we can start, you know, adding all of the stuff in and demonstrating how it looks and adjusting it as necessary. So we're going to add avatar. Make sure you do it from @/component/UI/avatar, not radix UI. Avatar fallback and avatar image. All three components. And sorry, I didn't actually show the code for avatar now that I'm remembering it. Yep, there's three parts to it, right? The outer avatar component, an image, and then a fallback. So we're going to import all the pieces of the drop-down menu. So we have the drop-down menu. Remember, grabbing it from @/component/UI, not radix. Drop-down menu context. Drop-down menu item. Drop-down menu. They have their own separator there, which is cool. Drop-down, I believe trigger. I'm looking for menu trigger. There we go. There it is. So those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces that we need. And we can import skeleton. We're not going to use it until later, but we'll just have it. Export const. So let's create the actual component. User button here. I think this is a good opportunity to start showing some of the powerful things that we can do with Auth.js and start actually retrieving information about the user. So one of the things that we can do is pull this use sessions function here to grab a session about the authorization of our page. So let's just say like if session.status and not states, status. Right? You can see that status can be authenticated, unauthenticated, or loading. And so if it is loading, and actually we can start doing our skeleton right now. We can do loading, or actually it's just a circle, like, because the user button is just the avatar. So actually we can just do a spinning loader. So if we grab loader from Lucid React, let me just grab it first before I style it. Import, loader. Why is it not showing? Whatever. I'll just do from Lucid React. There we go. And if I hover over this, so just so you can see, there's that little loader there. I call this the star loader. I don't know what it's actually called, but you've seen it in some cases, right? It's supposed to like rotate and spin around, and we'll add that animation for it to look that. Or you could do loader 2, which is more of this circular style. I think just because it's a circular image, it makes more sense to do this. Loader 2 to me is like something you would put at the center of a screen, just because there could be like a variable, like different types of components can appear. Then you would add the circle instead of doing the kind of flashy hover here. Like if you know what you're going to display on the screen, you can do this to mirror it, right? So that when it actually loads, it doesn't just pop in. It kind of transitions from this kind of flashing loading component skeleton here to the actual components. But if you don't actually know what's going to be in there, like depending on the data that you pull, you're going to load one thing or another. And if you don't know, I think this loading 2, like having this spin here, looks better for the purposes of something that's small and circular. Just doing this kind of spinning star loader, I think looks better. So let's just style it. So we're going to do animate-spin. You can see that's the CSS that was appeared there for a second on screen. We have size of 4 and text muted foreground. So it's a little grayed out, the color of the loader, so it's not like a dark, not fully black. Right, we want it to be a little bit lighter. And our session.status is equal to authenticated. Or if we don't have any session data, it's kind of weird error to get. But if we're unauthenticated for whatever reason, like while it's loading, we're gonna have the little spinner there. But don't do anything if it's unauthenticated. And honestly, this is just a error catch just in case we use user button somewhere. But like, let's just say in home we forget to do our redirect, right? We don't want to try to accidentally use data that doesn't actually exist, right? And if for whatever reason, there's a valid session, but then there is no data with that session because it can be null, right? We just want to say like, okay, we're not going to actually show a user button. We're going to return null. But remember, if there's a third state that is not loading, authenticated, or something broke, right? There's authenticated, and if it's in the case of authenticated, we're going to showcase our drop-down menu. And, I'll do it a little bit slower than Copilot just so that it's easier to follow along. We're going to do a drop-down menu. We're going to create our trigger here. We're going to add in our avatar. We're going to add in our avatar image. And we're going to add in our avatar fallback. So we're going to style each part of this. So our avatar will have hover opacity 75. So the opacity of the avatar gets reduced from usually 100%. It's fully opaque to less when you hover over it, so it makes it look a little glossy to kind of denote that, hey, this is something that's clickable. And then just do transition. Cool. Add a transition there to the avatar. We're going to do alt, so session, .data, .user, question mark, .name. So if the user has a name, right, it's going to be an alt, the alt image. So, if the image doesn't load for whatever reason, like, it's just going to show the user's name along with the little icon that's for a, image that it isn't loaded. You might have seen it. It's not too big of a deal if you haven't. Their user, again, potentially has an image, but if there is no image, then we're just going to provide an empty string here. So we'll just make this a little bit bigger so we can all see it on one line. There. Avatar fallback. Provide session.data. Again, so like if we don't have an image, right, this is a way for us to still display something. User.name. And we'll just grab their first, the first letter of their name to uppercase. And again, if for whatever reason we don't have a username, like if we had data somehow, but we didn't have a username, no image, we'll just write U for user. And then we're going to style it, providing a background color of sky of 500, a nice blue, font medium, text of white. So whatever you want the background behind the user to be, it could be gray, like you can do slate of 500 if you like a gray, or for some of the buttons we've been doing green, like you can do emerald to get that green color in the background behind the user. It's personal preference. I like using sky blue, but you can use whatever. Sorry, there's no blue in that. It's just sky of 500. Let's see. So that's the trigger. So it's going to show a little avatar, and if you click on it, it's going to be the trigger to actually open up the drop-down menu. So actually, let me pull it up within the Shadcn here, just so that we can know what we're kind of following. So there's a lot of stuff here, but this is kind of a complex. This is a good way of looking at it, right? So there's a trigger here. There's an open, and if you just hit the open, it'll pop up all the stuff that's inside of it. So they use labels and items and separators and all that type of stuff. We're mostly going to be using just items, but just because we know that the user button is going to be stuck to the top of the screen instead of having it be responsive and appear on the top, like, it could choose whether to appear on the top or the bottom. We're just going to explicitly say that it's going to be have an alignment towards, you can see center, start, or end. We're going to choose end, so it goes down. And we're going to do a class name and force the width to be of 60, which is about 240 pixels. And we're going to add in drop-down menu item here. I need to stop hitting question mark by accident. And we're going to have a couple of different fields for this component. We're going to do a class name, so we're going to style this item a little bit further. We're going to say that it has a height of 10, which is 40 pixels. And on hover, it's just going to be the background of it is going to be sky of 100. So instead of the white background that it usually is, gets a little blue to show that it's being hovered, disabled. We're just going to do it to be false for now. But there'll be a reason for us to do this later. We're going to do an on-click, and we're going to set it to an empty function for now until we actually implement this. And the reason that we're going to implement it later, let's add in credit card from Lucid React, a little credit card icon. Class name, margin right of 2, size of 4, here is because this is billing. So we're not going to add our Stripe billing until much later, basically at the end of the tutorial. So we'll have ways to disable this and navigate to a dedicated route to handle billing. But for now, we're just going to leave it this way. Another thing that we're going to add is drop down menu separator. Just keep everything separate here. We're going to add in our log out or sign out button. So you can choose whatever you want. Just because in Lucid React they call it log out, the name of the icon. So whoops. Just because of that, I'll use the same terminology here to just log out. I don't know. You can write sign out if you want. Personal preference. What am I writing? Class name. We're going to style this icon as per usual. Margin right of 2, size of 4. And here we're going to add basically the same thing as in our billing menu here. But false. I don't think there's going to be a reason why sign out is disabled, so we're going to remove that. And we're actually going to add in, we're going to use sign out here from next auth/react. And it's a function, so we're going to just do a function call there. So great. So whenever you click this button, we're just going to sign out. And if you're wondering where this is from, right, remember inside of our auth, we have sign in, sign out here. So that's just where it's pulling from. So cool. Now we have our sign out page, or a sign out button, log out button. So now we can add in our user button here, grabbing it from feature/auth, and we're going to create a toggle, org toggle in the future. Let me just check to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. I think we're good. We might need the skeleton in the future. We'll see. We had semicolons here to finish that up. Yeah, I think we should be good. Platform headers is done. This is done. We'll add this in. Oh, I forgot to turn it. Yeah, there we go. This, it's not importing. Oh, it's because it's home platform header. Great. So I feel fine about doing / here. You could do the whole, app whatever, but I feel like it's just because this is the component that's only going to be used within the home. It's not going to be probably moved around anywhere, and if it is going to move, it's going to move with the home page. So, I'm fine with the / here. You can do the @ app, platform, home, _ components, right? The full route. Basically copying from this way in, if you'd like, but I personally don't see the need to do it. Let me just add in the little complete the component look to these. So we're just gonna do this, so that when we uncomment it later, we'll already have the component information set. So great. If we try to go to home again, we don't have redirect on login, so if we just go to home, what's wrong? Oh, we have not started the server yet, so let's just do that. npm run dev. Let's refresh this. Get back to the home screen. Oh, next session must be wrapped within a session provider. Absolutely. So the way that I'm going to do this, just because we're going to be using a couple of different providers, I'm actually going to create an own folder. So after I closed everything, open up source, create a folder called providers, add in an index.tsx here, create export const providers, and it's going to have children. Prop providers, so thank you for including that. I don't think we actually need that. What we're going to do is create a fragment here and do session providers. Actually, we're pulling it from next auth/react. We don't actually need this fragment because we just let session providers be the top level component here and then just allow for it to provide children. Sorry. And then we'll do interface providers props, and then just provide in the children, which is react.react node. And then we are going to add our providers to our top level layout here. So this is being able to allow for us to use that sessions component to get the user information about our current session. So whoops, providers, and pull it from @/providers, and yeah, I think I should just add our children in. And there we go. And now we have everything. So cool. You can see that for a second there was a little loading on the right there. Honestly, size of 4. I don't like how it looked like it was smushed in the corner while I was doing that. So maybe I'll add in a little margin right of 2. And let's see if it's aligned with where the actual spinner is. Maybe I can actually also make it bigger. So how much? Like 6? 6 look right? I don't think it's... look at 10. Let's try 10. Oh, it's not changing sizes, actually. Weird. Why is it not? Oh. Sorry, I was changing it in my sample code. That's why it was not actually changing. I apologize for that. Here we go. Where is it? Size of... Well, first let's try the margin right. So let's do margin right of 2 to try to fix this. It didn't seem to push it over that much. So let's do 10. Increase the size a little bit. How did that look? Well, now it's a little bit to the left, so we can get rid of this MR of 2. I guess it's more of a sizing thing. Yeah, so that looks about the same size, right? So you can see the spin there for a second while it's retrieving user information. You have my little logo, or not logo, my profile picture there for my personal account. We have our new campaign, new contacts. So you can see justify between pushes it really far in between. And this little bit here, they have a padding left of 10, but basically it allows for us to add this user button and then a future organization toggle and have it be separated from this part of our header here. So we don't have the sidebar yet, so that part doesn't match yet, but it's good to see that we have our little home dashboard here. So let's move on and create the dashboard sidebar. Okay, onto the platform sidebar here. We're just going to clear down. We're going to close everything. We're going to go back into our app. We're going to go into our platform. We're in the same place that we did our platform headers here and create a new file, platform-sidebar.tsx. Like, you don't need to name it platform-sidebar because actually we just used sidebar here. And honestly, actually, we need to change this from dashboard and call it platform layout. I apologize for changing a lot of this stuff. Platform layout, and really add that here and here. That is my first tutorial. Give me some slack. I'm still figuring out how to explain some of these things to people and sequence it in the right thing. So thank you for bearing with me. So what we're gonna do is just do an export const platform sidebar. Just create the skeleton of the component here. Actually, this needs to return a div. We'll just create an empty div here just so that we can add it to our layout here and not be worried about forgetting to add it later. So there's platform sidebar. Remove this bit here so we have it from /component sidebar. Totally fine, because again, these are just going to go with the layout. If this moves for whatever reason, platform sidebar is moving with it, so not too much to worry about there. So let's see. So just because on the left side here, you remember me using like nav and some other like main, we're going to use the aside tag whenever we do sidebars. So whoops, not in the layout, in here. I'm going to use aside here, and we're actually not going to do any logic within our platform sidebar, so we don't actually need to include the return. We'll just do parens here to make it look cleaner. We're going to add in styles, though, to our sidebar. We're going to do BG sky of 100. We're going to have it fixed on the side, flex column, so everything's aligned vertically. H full, so we're going to have the full height. It's going to be hidden on smaller screens on the left side. And if it's on large screens or above, it's gonna be visible. And we're gonna do shrink of 0, width of 300 px. So we added to the layout. Again, you're not gonna see anything on smaller screens, but on bigger screens, you can see we have this little sidebar. Great. So we're going to create 2 components. Actually, we're gonna do a sidebar logo. And we're going to, have a sidebar routes. So, sidebar, not side routes. Sidebar logo, sidebar routes. So, again, if we go back to the wireframe, there's a logo on the top there. These are our sidebar routes. And then we're going to have a little upgrade prompt. So we'll just add that. Upgrade prompt. Cool. Let's see. Do we actually need logic for that in the... You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it. Oh, no. We're actually going to do it inside the upgrade prompt. Okay, cool. No. So this is great. So we're going to have some... we're going to have a logo, we're going to have routes, and we're going to have a prompt. And they're all going to be aligned in a column. So let's start working on them. So let's add in... sidebar logo .tsx, and look, you can also create this is now hidden with the underscore, so technically you can just create like a sidebar folder and put all this stuff within sidebar. That's an option that you can do. Like you can also do platform sidebar here and create that folder there, and the index.tsx, which would be equivalent to this. Now that I'm actually saying it out loud, I kind of want to do that, so we're going to do that just to separate it from the header. So we're going to do that, put this in here, update the imports, but we don't want the sidebar look to it, so we're going to remove it and not save yet, because all we're going to do is just do index.tsx here. We're going to save this, so that should be all fine. We're going to move this sidebar logo into here. And we're also going to add in our sidebar routes, sorry, not routers, .tsx. Let's just create empty components for both of these. Div, let me think. Are we going to be doing any... yes, we are. So this actually needs to be wrapped and do return. Have the JSX wrapped around a return statement. And let's see, do basically practically the same thing for our logo. So we'll just change that, copy paste that, and change routes to logo. So we have these 2 bits here. So now we can uncomment this and add it. There we go, from /. Again, all these are going to be used together, so no need to do like at all, do an at app platform underscore components, blah blah blah. Like they're all gonna work together. So if we ever move it, we're gonna move this entire folder. So I don't feel the need to do it. You're welcome to do so if you feel like it. So cool. Let's actually start with the logo. Go back to our logo. And we're gonna import image from next/image. Import link from next link. We're going to pull our font, and let me see here. We actually have our logo component. Remember from logos components. And is there anything that we can share? Honestly, we can. Oh no, there's a couple things that we want to do it. So like we want it to be along the same size as our header here. That's why we can't reuse this unless we wanted to make it the same size. But on our landing page, I think we had a different height for of our. I'm just not going to change it. We could have reused our logo, and you can if you want to. And honestly, we didn't use. Yeah. So, actually, we don't need a font for this. We're just going to use the base level font just for this tutorial. Make it easier. Instead of wrapping this around a div, we can do link here. So again, hey, we're trying to be agile on the fly here. I'm going to do something similar to the logo, but just because we have a particular style that's different, I'm not going to use the same thing, but basically use similar component structure. So we're going to do a div here, do class name, flex gap x of 2, height of 68 pixels, so that it's the same height as our header over here. Hover opacity of 75, item / center px of 4, transition. Great. We're going to do a div, class name, relative size of 8. We're going to do, whoops, that was weird. Div, what's wrong? What happened? Oh, I forgot to put the quotes here. There we go. Close that up. Do image. We're going to provide the alt, the same alt, logo alt here. Class name, rounded, full. Height of 50. Source will be our logo URL. Width of 100. And then outside of this relative size of 8 div, we're going to have h1 here, class name, font, bold, text, XL, and we're going to have poke CRM. Great. So let's go back here and see. There we go. We have poke CRM, the little logo there to the left of it. And really this logo piece is going to be along the same heights as a header. Honestly, I'm looking at it. I'm not doing anything with this unless I add like a border B on the bottom here to have that little line extend all the way across. I don't know if we actually need to do it. So, let me actually just comment. Actually, I'll do it here. Let's comment out the logo here and just see if I can optimize my sample code on the fly. We can just add in logo here. How does it look? Oh, it's centered. That's weird. Is that what was in logo? Oh my goodness, what am I clicking? Here we go. Yeah, I did center it. Oh, interesting. So that's why I can't reuse it. Alright, well, always trust the sample code. I wrote it for a reason. So now we have it on the left, a left align, and a little padding naturally from the image. So it looks that way, and a little bit of spacing. So if you have a longer name for whatever your application is, it can fit. So cool. Oh, right. And the height, when we specified that height, it's also because when the route starts, we'll have it start here in line with our header. There was a method to the madness. Cool. Great. So that's the logo component there. We'll do some extra things with the... Oh, actually, we're not. So, in fact, we don't need the return. So we will do this. So, again, if I'm not creating a function or adding any extra logic, I'll just remove it and, simplify my arrow function by just having it return directly without, It's like, look, you can... This is absolutely valid to do an arrow function this way. I just think it's a little verbose to do it, and I'll just remove that bit there. Saves me 2 lines in my code, and I know that it doesn't really matter in the long term, but I think just from readability, like, makes it look a little bit better. And let me just reorder this in the way that I personally like it. Okay, cool. All right, let's cap off the sidebar by adding in our routes. So this is going to be a client component because we're going to be using the URL, and if we're going to be using the URL, we're going to do use path name from next/navigations. So we're going to need to grab, whoops, nope, grab our path name, use path name. And the reason for that is we're going to highlight whichever route we're on. So I didn't show it there, but like, let's say we were on campaign. Campaign will be highlighted. If we're on contacts, the contacts page, the contacts will be highlighted. I don't know if I did. Oh, I did actually do it. See, so just like how we're like highlighting based off of whatever page that we're on. And weirdly enough, I didn't do it for that, but whatever. Or for that. But yeah, like we're gonna try to highlight it. So the way that we can do that is just grab from the URL, like what our path name is. So let's style this sidebar. So we're gonna do class name flex 1 flex column gap y of 4. There. So everything's gonna be vertically on top of each other. Whoops, we're actually going to need a UL tag, so we're going to create a list here, and the list is just going to be all of the various routes, all positioned within it. So we're going to have a class name for our unordered list. So basically, since, and let's take a look at the wireframe real quick, how it looks like on the sidebar, just to remind everyone. We're going to have everything. This is basically going to be a column, so I guess technically we could have put another like container here to just be like all of these are in a column with each other, and then we're going to have basically justify between or some sort of separation in between. We're going to have this along the bottom. I actually think, looking at the sample code, yeah, we're probably just going to have this position on the bottom and then just have this be on a line underneath the logo. We're going to have these in a UL tag, and we're going to create a component for each one of these sidebar routes. So we're just going to create a component for a catch-all component, and then just like add in campaign for this one, contacts for this one, and the corresponding icon. Cool. So let's jump back into this. Style our UL tag here, and do flex column, gap of y of 1, px of 3. So we're going to have a padding of 3 on either side, and then we're going to have a gap of 1 4 pixels in between all of the items in between. Let's create another. Oh well, so I'll just write it out here. So we're going to have like a sidebar. You can call it route, like singular route. I think that's kind of confusing because it's just the difference is plural versus not plural. So you might accidentally mistype one, so I'll just call it like sidebar item, and then close that. There's no children inside of sidebar item, and then we'll fill in the props after we've created our sidebar item. So right now we have an error on this. Let's go in our platform sidebar here, do sidebar dash item, not plural, .tsx. Export const sidebar item, and let me just create a fragment here. Whoops. Just return an empty div for now, just so we can get rid of this error by importing this. Cool. Dot slash, I think that's fine, just because you're never going to use sidebar items without sidebar routes. They'll probably always be in the same folder, so that's fine with a dot slash. You can do @ slash, all of this. You can just follow this app platform underscore components platform sidebar slash sidebar, just to platform sidebar, slash sidebar items, if you really wanted to do that, but I'm personally don't think it's needed for that. Okay, so let's create the props for this. Actually, this doesn't need to be with the return, so we can just do this, because we're not going to put any logic inside of this. We don't need class name. We're going to need the link from next link, and some other stuff we'll import later. So we're going to wrap this div and link inside of the link and just paste this back in here. We need an href which we'll grab from our props href. So let's create our props just so we have it. Next bar sidebar, we're going to need an href of string. We're going to need an icon, which is of type lucid icon. So just because it's in that curly brace format, we'll put it there. Just to reorder that. Is active, which is an optional Boolean. We're going to provide a label of string. And we're going to have an on-click, so trigger a function. When we do that, it'll be optional. No, actually, I think this is going to be required, and this will be required. I don't know why I did it optional in my source code. Icon. So we're going to find that, like, we don't want to use lowercase icon for this. We'll use uppercase icon, so we'll just basically alias this icon, lowercase I icon, with this capitalized I. It's just like for whatever reason we might be creating a variable or a state, which we'll use lowercase I icon. It's just good practice, in my opinion, to just use the uppercase one. Is active, label, and on click, and then we'll provide the types for all of these. Cool. And then inside of our div, we're going to give it a style. We're going to give it a dynamic style with CN here. And we'll just push this down there like this, just to make it easier to read. We're going to have BG of transparent, so it's going to have no background by default. Flex. On hover, it's going to be BG of white items. Center, PX of 3, PY of 3. Wait a second. If they're both of 3 in both directions, then we can just do that. Simplify that a little bit. Rounded of extra large. Transition. And the reason that we have a dynamic type is, just as Copilot is suggesting, we're going to do active. If it is active, we're going to have BG of white. So even when you hover, there's not going to be anything readily. There's nothing going to be changed, right? If you're already active, if you hover over it, there shouldn't be any action or any style changes to indicate that there's an action. So we're going to use icon here and do class name, margin right of 2, size of 4. Make it look a little thicker by doing stroke of 2. Just because I want to provide more emphasis on this icon as opposed to others. We're going to provide a span here and do a label. And then just style it. Font of medium. Text of small. Great. So we need to provide the bits here. So we're going to do href of, so let's look back here. We have campaign, contacts, analytics, and settings. Actually didn't put one for home, but we have our logo that you can click on to go back to home. But maybe I'm going to make it kind of audible here and add explicitly home so you can get back to the home screen. Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to call an audible here and add it in. So we'll do just slash home. Remember, don't do just slash, because that's going to take you back to the landing page. Which, you know, technically, when we do redirect in the future, like if it goes to the landing page, if you're logged in, it'll just go straight to home anyways. But, you know, I'd rather make it a lot more clear and just do slash home. Let's see. We're going to need icon, which will be home. The home icon. This one. So just bring that up there. We're going to do is active. So the reason that we grab the path name. So when we look at our route here, whoops, where is it? There it is. You see the slash home here, right? Where that's going to be what the path name is. So we just compare it to slash home here. and then we find out that yes, it is active when /home is in the active path name. So cool, that part. And then we'll do label of home, and then an on click, right? Well, we can do router. So we haven't added that in yet, so we'll just do that. Const router is equal to use router. We're going to grab that from navigation. Cool. And then we're going to do router dot push home. Whoops. Home. Like, I don't think that you necessarily need to do like the same is active check to see if whether or not on click should be done. I mean, you know, if you click on home, it'll redirect you back to home. It's kind of whatever. I don't think there's a performance hit, but maybe there is, like, so I'll just leave it up to you for personal preference if you want to add that. Cool. So let's see, let's just do all the rest of them. So there are 5 of them, so we'll just do 5 of them. Well, now that we've added home, so 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, cool. So now we're gonna do href. What was the order that I had it? Campaign, contacts, analytics, settings. Okay, so this one's campaign. Did I do it with an S? Nope, just singular. Copilot's wrong there. Href of contacts. And should I have done it plural? I mean, I did singular here. I wrote campaigns with an S here, so we're going to call another audible and rename this to campaigns plural. We're going to add an S here. I think that makes more sense. All right, href / analytics. And then the last one, which is of settings. Cool. We're missing a couple of other stuff here, so we need an icon for campaigns. So let me see, which one did I choose? So I'm just going to show here, like you can go to the lucid.dev/icons and then basically search up different icons that you wanted. I just wanted to pull it up to just showcase, like, there were a bunch of potential options. I'm just going to choose mails since it seems, you know, just because for campaign, it's mostly going to be about the emails. So we're just going to grab that real quick. So let's go back into our code here, and for the icon here, just choose mails, right? So you have that same icon there. So we're going to add it. We're going to do is active. Yep, there we go. Label of campaigns, and on click, right? Router.push/campaigns. Cool. And then we're going to do the same for the others. So go back, like, what does contacts look like? Personally, I think mailbox probably makes the most sense for contacts. So we're just going to grab mailbox there. Is active for contacts. Thank you, Copilot. Label is also of contacts. So, you know, a lot of this you can copy paste it and then just change it as well. And honestly, I think I'm going to do that for the next few. So we're just going to grab this, paste, and then go through. So analytics. So let's just search up one. Does one pop up for analytics? Yeah, so we got a couple of different ones. Like, you can choose whichever one that you like. For me, like, to think about like analytics, it's going to be up and to the right, and so we're probably going to be looking at either the chart line or no axes combined. I think like either one works out pretty well. I think this one's probably the most simple, so we're going to look for chart-line. So chart line, there we go. Add that in there. Instead of contacts, we're going to have analytics. We're going to do capital A, analytics for the label, and then just copy this path name here for the push. For the settings, right, I think settings, usually I just use the settings here, cog. So if you just type in settings, right, there's multiple different versions, but I think the cog kind of speaks out to me the most. So you can copy this settings, add it here and here, and then really, actually, we can just take this settings and paste it in there. Cool. So make sure that you have all of your routes here. And let's jump back in over here, and you can see we have home, campaigns, contacts, analytics, and settings. And you know, if we click on one of these, it's going to get to a 404 because we haven't done the actual pages yet, but you know that we can actually navigate with each one of these. So cool. We have our different routes. I think that for the most part, they look kind of small, so like I think I can go back into here, go back into the sidebar items, maybe make them medium. Let's see if that, yeah, I think that works. Honestly, I almost want to create a custom, now that I'm kind of looking at it, create a custom or a dynamic style here and just say is active font dash bold. So let's just see how that looks with home. Yeah, a little too much. I don't know. I think maybe it's a personal preference for how you feel about it, but I think that's fine. I actually noticed here that the on-click, we already have the link sending there, so actually, I don't know if the on-click actually triggers or is needed, so I don't know why I included the on-click here, because if you just click on the link, it gets navigated. I guess if you wanted to do some form of behavior along with these clicks, but I don't think it's actually needed in our case because we're using it purely for navigation. And thinking on the code, I actually don't think that we need the on-click, so we're going to go back and just remove it all. So we're going to get rid of this because the link already manages the navigation, so we don't actually need any of these. So a little bit of optimization on the fly there. Cool. All right, so you just need 4 things. There, this is stacked into a column. We're going to have the, actually, interesting. We put the upgrade prompt inside of our sidebar here in this way. I actually didn't think that it was going to be in the routes. So we actually don't need this here then. So yeah, let's change it up. I don't know what I was doing in the, yeah, because I think it's actually better if the upgrade prompt goes out here. We can control the, you know, kind of placement of it out in the sidebar as opposed to including it with the routes. So like the look of it, right, is the exact same. We're just going to have the upgrade prompt just be in an absolute position on the bottom. So I think that makes a bit more sense. Cool. All right. So we're fixing a lot of stuff on the fly, but hopefully, you know, we've streamlined the sidebar routes function, make it look a lot more cleaner. Like, you know, I think that within the sidebar here, you could technically do the path name out here, and just in case you need to apply the path name in other places, but really we're only using the path name in the routes, so I can push it down to, you know, the deepest children component and just have it there as opposed to being on the top level. So either way works. Personal preference. In my thought, I think that this works probably the best. Let me just separate these out. And that's our sidebar item. That's our routes there. That's our logo. We'll do upgrade prompt, especially when we have the Stripe integration. So we'll just keep this as a to-do in the future. And we don't actually need this logo, so we'll just get rid of that. Cool. So that is all the different components for our platform sidebar. Okay, so real quick, I just wanted to note something. Before we clear down and go move on to the home screen, I wanted to note that here we specified, right, that the sidebar is fixed to the left and has a width of 300 pixels. And so let's clear down and just keep that in mind, 300 pixels. That we specified here that the home page was of width full. And maybe somebody noticed that. Kudos to you if you did. I saw it in my sample code as I was going back to get ready to work on the home page again. Realized that we don't see the home here in the header. We kind of missed that there, and that's because it's because we've made a width of full here. It's actually sitting underneath here, and if you actually go to inspect element, go to the elements, find the top part of here, so here you can see that the little home bit here, right, home, is underneath the logo. You can see that it's like underneath, and so we need to fix that. And one of the ways that we can fix that is not actually change it in the header, because we need everything to be to the right of the sidebar. And the way that we can do that is doing a padding left here of those 300 pixels, px there, and if we save that, we'll see our home. Cool. Let's actually move on to creating the campaign summary card and the audience card. Okay, we're going to take a look at our wireframe real quick and take a look at how Mailchimp has designed it. And I basically based the wireframe off of what Mailchimp did here. They have their little header here and then all of their information within a card. And I think that that's probably something that we're going to take some inspiration from, but I'm going to make some amends real quick on the fly. We're going to take campaign performance, and we're actually going to put it inside of our card. It's just how ShadCN works, that we can do that and just kind of move this here, do the same thing for audience, and remove that. So this just shows like how we're able to change things on the fly based off of what we see are available within the tools that we're using, right? And so if we go into ShadCN here, and let's just open it up, ShadCN. Let's go over to card here and see, right, that we can just put our title inside of the card itself. I personally think that that looks a little bit better than just having it floating here. We can still add the tooltip if we want, and that's actually if we go back, ShadCN component, here it is, tooltip, right? If you hover over it, it provides that little bit of information there. We can also use popover if you want it to be like, you know, an on-click as opposed to a hover. So we have different options there. We can test out different ones to see which one we like more. And so let's jump right into the cards. Back into our code, we're going to create our home campaign summary card.tsx component for this one, and then we're going to do the same thing for audience. So we're going to do home audience summary card.tsx. Let's start with the campaign first. Do it in order. Const home campaign summary card. Looks good. Okay. This is eventually going to have some things that require this to be a client component. We're going to need all of the pieces of the card. So we're going to do card content. So I'm just remembering back to what we did before in that little example with the card. We're just going to grab all of the different pieces, header and card title from @/components/UI/card. So make sure that we don't grab it from radix. Return, oh my goodness, spelling. Return card, and have its style be margin top of 10, width of full. We're going to do card header here, which will have a card title of card summary. Wait, campaign summary, not card summary. Oh boy. Campaign summary. And then we're going to have a description of from, and we'll just do date to date here. and actually provide like a little comment to do swap with real date range in the future. So that's just a placeholder for now. Okay. Next step, card content. And do a div in here. Style the div. We're going to have flex call, gap, y of 2. We're going to have another div inside of here, class name, flex row, justify between. And then we're going to have 2 spans here. We're just going to have some placeholder values for now. So we're going to have active campaigns. We'll grab the actual number at some point. And let me actually bring this onto one line. Just to clean up the code a little bit. And then we're going to have another span. We'll just write out a number 0 there. We'll go back to styling this when we actually have the data. Class name for this, flex row, gap, x of 2. And to do a span for, completed campaigns. And we'll have another span here and just write 0 for now. Cool. And so that is our campaign summary card. We'll just write in a real quick to-do here. To-do, get the campaign data from database. So we'll remember to do that in the future. We should now be able to grab our campaign summary card and put it in there. Let's see how it looks and if we need to make any adjustments. Okay, so something happened here. Obviously, we have a 0 all the way out in the corner here. So let's go back to our code here. Go back to the summary card and look. Oh, we have justify between here. Oh, it's because I missed a div. There's actually a parent div, so we'll also slide this one up here. We will slide this up here. Oh, by the way, if you want to know how you can like just move this, like you highlight whatever you want, you hit Alt and then use the arrow keys to go up and down. Little VS Code tip there. Flex row, gap, x of 2. And if we do that, we'll have these in line with each other. Honestly, now that I'm kind of looking at it, like you could do it like this. This is kind of a weird stretch that we've got here. So maybe instead of justify between, we'll just do another gap x of 4. Let's see how that looks. I don't know. Maybe I like them on top of each other in a column. So maybe we'll just do column and then gap y of 4. Yeah. 2. Okay, I think that looks fine. We'll style the font and all that type of stuff. I'm also noticing that the card, because we did width of full here, they're kind of flush with the sidebar here into the right side of the screen. So what we can do is just do px of 4. Sorry, not px of 4, mx of 4. Let's see. So we have it on this side, but we don't seem to have it on this side. Oh, it's because we have the PL kind of pushing it to the right. I gotta think about that for real quick. So let me figure that out and get back to fixing this. Okay, so I realized that it's because I missed a part of my sample code here, that when we put these cards here, we'll put them in its own container here, and then grab the styles for this, flex column, gap y of 2, and px-2. And when we do that, you can see there's a little edge here, Maybe I'll increase it a little bit more just so it's more pronounced. You can see there's a little gap here on this side, and there's obviously a gap on this side. So that's the place to do it, not in the actual card itself. So we can do that. And then for the audience summary card, we basically can just copy and paste the same thing and just change campaign for audience. Now, obviously, if we copy paste a lot of this code, you can abstract it if you want. So just like, being able to provide all the fillers and all that type of stuff. We're not going to be doing it a lot. Like, there's probably these two and then like another one. So like you could create like a summary card component and put it within components here, and then just have all of these use it. But then you're just basically populating the same amount of stuff, but just sticking it via props. So personally, I just don't see the need for that. So we're just going to copy paste a lot of it and just change some of the terms, right? And not worry too much about having to pass everything through props. And I think it looks cleaner this way, but either way really works. So we're just going to change all of our campaign stuff. The date is going to be the same. Instead of active campaigns, we're going to have total audience here. Right, you could write it as like total contacts too. So that's also another thing of I'll leave it up to you for whichever one you think is more clear. Whoops. And then active audience. So that'll be its own number as well. And so then we can uncomment this out, put in our card. Let's see, what is the error here? That's strange. What seems to be the issue? Did I forget? Audience summary card, campaign, export const. Everything should be good. What's wrong? Let me pause this and find out. So I just basically refreshed the page. I don't know what was going on there with that error, but I just refreshed the page and it worked. I think that the margin top here is not needed. We just want the first one to be on that. And honestly, actually, we don't need it in here. We can just put it within this outer container here. Just so if we ever put a card on top of this, we don't have to worry about finding out where our margin is in the campaign. We'll control it in this outside. So there's that. And let me just increase this to 4 and provide a little bit more space between the two cards here. So great. We'll obviously style this more to make it look a little bit nicer once we actually have actual data. We'll also have some charts and other cool data visualization stuff using Shadcn. But for right now, that's what our cards are going to look like in our homepage. So now that we have our homepage, we might notice that we're missing a couple of pieces here in the corner. It would be nice to have some form of user button so we can click on it and sign out, all that good stuff. And if we're going to have multiple organizations, which we've discussed before, we should also have a little button to be able to toggle that. So we're going to basically need to add more stuff to our database and be able to pull it so that we can have that information to display into the corner. So let's continue working on our backend next. Before we move on to working on the backend, we're going to try to fix some of the issues, and one that I've noted right here that's pretty stark, and a couple others that I observed while rewatching the part that I just recorded. One of them is obviously right here for smaller device sizes. We created our sidebar here, and we wanted for the smaller devices for it to be hidden, and only on large devices for the sidebar to be visible. Now, obviously, since we shifted everything that is within the quote-unquote home screen over by 300 pixels to respect the width of the platform's sidebar here, we need to go into our page and only do the padding left when we are on large screens. Now we can move everything over. One of the things that will change as well is you might notice here that we don't have a user button. And the reason for that is if we expand this just so that we can see the console a little bit bigger and go back into the code. So what dictates the fact that the user button here found in features, auth, components, pages, and let me collapse this just so that we can more easily see where it is. So inside of auth components here, we have our user button. So we can see that if this isn't rendering, it means that it's either in its loading state, which will have a little loader spinner, which you'll see that it appears there. So that means that it gets through loading, and it means that we're probably unauthorized. And in between sessions, I must have accidentally hit sign out at some point, or hit the API sign out. And so, we're going to be returning null, which means that we're not actually returning a user button. A way that we can see this is by just doing a quick console.log session.status, and if we just hit save there, we can see that we're unauthorized, which means that we're not actually logged in, and so that's why the user button doesn't appear. And obviously, if we go back into login here and just log in with Google real quick, just use my personal email, we hit continue. We don't have the redirect yet, so we'll just go back to home here. And after a little bit of loading, you can see my information here. And we can log out. And unfortunately, if we log out, we don't have any redirects. So real quick, we're going to create our redirect functions just to make our authorization clear, when we're authorized, when we're not. Obviously, in the final version, we also want this. So might as well get it done now before we start jumping deeper into building out our backend. Okay, so jumping back in, we need to go to our landing page here with our nav bar, and we said that we were going to create a login button. Now that we had auth, so we'll just uncomment that out, and we're going to create, instead of features, auth, and our components, we're going to create a login button.tsx. So we're going to just get rid of the error with a nav bar by just creating a login button like this, and returning for now just div. Okay, just so that we get rid of the error. And we're going to do button there, and no corresponding, with a slash there. There we go. So we got rid of our error there. And inside of our button here, I actually don't think that we are going to need the full function here. We're just going to need the button. So we're going to do this, and actually, how do I want to do this? We have a couple options here, but I think the most sensible one is probably to use this button here. Okay, so this login button is basically just going to be a redirect. So one of the things we're going to need is router from use router here. I mean, I guess there's two ways of doing it, right? You can do a link and then nest a button inside of it, or use a button and then just have it route. Either way kind of works in my mind. Is there a benefit to using one or the other? I guess not, right? So we can just use button here, and then, do on click, right, router.push login /login there, and then variant of outline, and then just write login. So something fairly simple. Let's save. Move this around. What happens? We're using a server component, right? So we need to do use client here, and save. Wait for it. What's wrong with this? Oh, whoops! Not from next router navigation. I still don't know why they have that in there. It just causes problems. But now we just have the login. Cool. Let's see. For logo, did I get rid of it on small screens? It's just because I wanted to get rid of the little menu pop up there, or allow for login to be prominent along the top. So, okay, I think that's fine. So you can do this, right? Or you can, not have this on click, and instead have link with the href of login that you can kind of see Copilot filling in there. And then sticking our button inside, right? So these should essentially work the same. So, up to you. Up to you which one for this particular case. Doesn't matter. And in fact, actually, I'm just going to test something really quick. I think it's probably because, let me see if link can be used within a server component. So let's refresh that. Yeah, so let's see, login, and that, yeah, it's compiling login, so it's taking me, okay, so I guess that's the difference. So router is to be used within client components, link for server components. So if you are using state, you need to use this router hook here, and then if you're in a server component, you can use link, and just wrap your button, and just use href to the login instead of this router push. I don't think I'm going to need a client component, so actually, I'm going to keep it this way and use this. Cool. Makes this look a little bit cleaner. There and there. Cool. I think that's that. Great. Moving on. Okay, let's create our redirect functions. Now, I really think that there's two options for where you can put these redirect functions. One of them is what we're going to do for this tutorial, which is to put them inside of auth here and put them inside of a utils.ts file. I just think that if there are functions that are related to a particular features, to just put them into a utils file and then be able to reference it from this particular file. I know that some other people like to prefer inside of libraries to put it inside of this kind of project level utils file that's automatically generated by shadcn. But I just think that for every single feature, I'd just rather separate them from each other so that this utils file doesn't get crazy large. Like if there's something that's going to be not a feature, but it's still a function that's going to be very often used, and really that's generally related to like math functions or stuff that doesn't really fit with a feature and is used throughout the project. I'll put it inside of this libs/utils.ts. But if it is associated with a particular feature, right, like redirect is associated with auth, then I'm going to create a separate utils and actually put those functions in there. So we're going to use two separate functions here. We're going to import first redirect from next/navigation here, and then grab auth, just added space there, from @/auth. Cool. And that was our auth file that we created right here, auth.ts. And we're just grabbing this auth that we've extracted from nextauth here. We're going to create export const redirect if authorized or authenticated. Whoops. Why didn't authenticated? Thank you. It's going to be an asynchronous function. And asynchronous functions are only usable within server components. So that's something to note, that just because grabbing the session takes time, and so you have to do const session equals await auth there. Because this function, it happens and it provides a promise here. To put it simply, right, it takes time for us to be able to retrieve whether or not the user is signed in or not. Underneath the hood, there's a lot of things working, so we have to wait, and that's what this asynchronous function is for. Inside of server components, we can do this form of wait. In client components, since we have a state, we don't want to do asynchronous calls, or at least Next.js by convention doesn't want you to do asynchronous calls within client components, and so we need to be aware whenever we do this redirect to make sure that we do redirect within server components and not within client components. And sometimes that causes us to have to create a additional nested component that is dedicated to being a client component for state management, and then having a parent component be a server component to deal with this redirect. So like very often in a lot of our pages here, right, like in home, we have this page which is going to be, and I'll change it later, but is going to be asynchronous. It's going to be a server component. That's why each one of these header component, these card components, they're going to be client components. They can do state management within these components, but not within this asynchronous homepage server component. So a little bit complicated, but I'll go through slowly in the different examples when we get there. So we're just going to do if session. So if there is a valid session, right, that means that we are authenticated. The only way that we have a valid session is if we're authenticated. Otherwise, it gives no. And if no, it's false. So this if condition doesn't trigger. So it only triggers if there's a session here. And if there is a valid session, we're authorized. And so we redirect to home. And so that's really useful in our landing page inside of this server component to do async and then await redirect if authenticated. And then let's move that up to other @ functions there. And so right now, if we go to full screen here, right, like we're not logged in. And so there is no redirect. If we hit login here and we log in with Google, continue. All right, we haven't done redirect on login, so it just goes back to login. But if we go back to our landing page, right, @ then it redirects us to home because we're logged in. If we log out, and we haven't done redirect in home yet, so that's why it stays at home. If we go back to the landing page, we're here. Right, so if we log in, we go to log in once again, just to really be thorough here, right? / goes straight to home. Cool. So let's log out again, just so we can get our redirect if authenticated also on our login screen. So that will actually allow us, once we actually log in from our login page, to go to the home. So let's go to our, where is it? Login here. So if I collapse it again, source, app, login, this page, what we're going to do is just remove this comment, paste this in here. It's going to say await requires us to be inside of an asynchronous function. Cool, that clears that up. And then we need to import this function. Right. And so if we go to login, we log in with Google, and we continue here. See, we're redirected now to our home screen after logging in. And now we need to protect this home page, right? We're logged out. You just saw me log out, but we're still on this home page. So now we need to do the opposite function here in our utils, which is to const protect page, and it'll be an asynchronous function as well. And we're going to do const session equals await auth, and then do the kind of opposite, right? If there is no session, then we need to, as Copilot is telling us, redirect to login. And by the way, one of the other ways that we can use and leverage this protect page and to show what's actually inside of session, right? We can return a object here so that we can actually get the user data inside of any page that we're trying to protect. So if we need to grab our email, then we do session.user.email. And if there is no email, then just return a empty string. We're going to do the same for ID. Session.user.id. Whoops. And empty string. Image. session.user.image. There we go. And lastly, it is the name. Thank you, Copilot. So the reason for this, right, even though we could have a session, user is still undefined because whatever OAuth provider, if it doesn't store it as user, then obviously we can't use it. And for whatever reason, it doesn't give us the user information, then we're just going to leave it blank. And we have in like our, where is it? Our components, user buttons, you can see we do the same thing here where we protect it from our session here. And we say like name couldn't possibly be there, so it could be empty. Cool. So that's protect page there. So we go into source app platform here, go to our home page and grab this page here. We make this an asynchronous function and we do await protect page. Here we go. Cool. And let's see. Right. So we're not logged in. So you can see how we're redirected there. If we try to go back to home, right, we get redirected back to login. If we log in, we go to we sign in, we get sent to home. If we log out, we're booted back to the login screen. Cool. Awesome. So now we have everything protected. Let's just put that in the right place there. An interesting thing, right? Because I showed you that you can grab the user information here, you could technically pass it down deep into this header component as a prop, right? And then pass it down inside of this header platform, which is here, and then pass it to the user button. I just think that's too many steps to just keep going deeper and deeper with a prop. And so that's why inside of user button here, I just grab the session again. And you can still grab it here with this hook. And this hook is the inside of a client component, the way for us to actually get our session information. Cool. Awesome. Let's see here. I think that's pretty much it. So now that we've actually successfully implemented all of our redirects, we can now safely and confidently implement the rest of our backend.